Good evening, all of you. Welcome to my channel. Today we like to discuss about sports drink. Now, sports drink, that is formulated beverage. Why it is known as formulated beverage? Because all the constituents present in the sports drink having a specific concentration, and that concentration has been prefixed by the manufacturer, which are actually health beneficial. From that angle, the concentration has been fixed. The concentration has been fixed. So, this sports drink is very much needed to maintain the performance, endurance of the sports person. Now, due to exercise, actually there is loss of fluid from the body. There is loss of electrolytes, especially sodium, potassium, chloride, and to some extent, calcium, magnesium. Side by side, there is also utilization of fuel, mainly carbohydrate, in the body fluids as well as in cell during exercise. So when such fluid content is decreased, electrolytes is also diminished, and the fuel concentration in the cell as well as in blood is decreased, the performance, the efficacy of the sports person, the endurance of the sports person are also diminished. So there is a question that how we can able to maintain the performance and the endurance, especially of the sports person. From that viewpoint, the sports drink utility has been focused. That means if we consume the sports drink before sports event as well as during sports event as well as after sports event, we can able to maintain the performance and endurance of the sports person. So actually, the sports drinks are provided to the sports person for enhancing performance, for maintenance of endurance throughout the sports duration. Now, if we study the history of the sports drink, the first in 1960s, the sports drink was invented in University of Florida for football players. And the most effective sports drink that was known as Gatorade, 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 which is also referred as Florida Gators, Florida Gators. And after that, the different steps for the evolution of the sports drink from the viewpoint of its constituents, concentration, their amount, for enhancing the performance and endurance of the sports person. On the basis of the time scale, from research in the sports physiology and sports nutrition, the constituents, that is glucose, sometimes glucose plus fructose, sometimes glucose plus maltodextrin, as well as electrolytes, as well as some additives for flavoring agent, for increasing the taste, along with some vitamins, were added to improve the efficacy of the sports drink so that we can able to maintain the performance and endurance of the sports person for a long time. So that is the history of the sports drink. Now, what are the components of the sports drink? That is the water. About 90 to 95% of the sports drink is the water. Carbohydrate, that is 6 to 8%. It is not less than 6%. Why? Because if we supply carbohydrate, mainly glucose, less than 6%, then we are unable to provide sufficient energy as per demand of the body of the sports person. And generally, we do not increase the carbohydrate, that is glucose, more than 8%. If we increase the carbohydrate, then it interferes the gastric emptying and it results delay of gastric emptying. So the sports person perceive an undesirable sensation about the stomach fillingness, and his or her concentration, attention for the sports event would be deviated. For that reason, the carbohydrate concentration is about 6 to 8%. Electrolytes like the sodium, potassium, chloride, and to some extent calcium and magnesium, that the rest 2 to 4%. Some flavoring agent I have already mentioned, that is berries flavoring agent, citrate flavoring agents are also added there. Some vitamins and minerals are also added, like zinc, like selenium are also added there, which are also antioxidant in nature. Vitamins A, vitamin C, these are vitamin E for antioxidant activity. These are also added in the sports drink. So these are the different components of the sports drink. Now, types of sports drink. On the basis of the osmolarity in respect to the blood, there are 3 types of the sports drink. We know the blood osmolarity is 275 to 295 milliosmol. If the osmolarity of the sports drink is equal to the blood, then it is known as isotonic. Hypotonic, when the concentration or osmolarity of the sports drink is less than 275 milliosmol, that is less than osmolarity of our blood, known as hypotonic. Hypertonic sports drink, when the osmolarity of the sports drink is more than 295 milliosmol, then it is known as hyperosmotic sports drink. At the pre-exercise period or pre-sports event, we mainly provide isotonic sports drink to the sports person. During exercise, we provide hypotonic as well as isotonic, but never hypertonic. So in the pre-sports as well as intra-sports, that means during sports event, we never provide hypertonic sports drink. But at the post-sports duration, for first 30 minutes, we provide hypotonic and isotonic. But after 30 minutes, we provide hypertonic sports drink. Now, hypotonic sports drink is mainly used to supply fluid of the body of the sports person, that is for hydration of the body. Hypotonic can able to supply energy at a very low level, and it is not very efficient to maintain the electrolytes. So its main function to maintain the body fluid volume. Isotonic, its main role to supply electrolytes as well as energy. where hypertonic, which is only provided at the second phase of the post-sports event to replenish the glycogen in liver and the muscle, which have been utilized during sports event. So hypertonic only provide at the second phase of the post-sports event to regenerate glycogen in the liver and muscle. Its affinity for hydration of the body, its affinity to supply electrolytes is not so efficient like hypotonic and isotonic. Now, role of carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, that means mainly glucose, 6 to 8% we provide, and that is known as the homogeneous sports drink. But now, through research, it has been invented that the efficacy of the homogeneous sports drink is not so effective like heterogeneous sports drink. Heterogeneous sports drink, that means not only one type of monosaccharide is present there, more than one type. Hetero means more than one, different. Like glucose and fructose present at the ratio of 2:1 or 1:0.8. The most important ratio, that the glucose is to fructose, 2:1 or 1:0.8. And the total amount would be 8%. That means glucose is about 5% and the fructose is 3%. Or glucose is 4 gram and the fructose is 4 gram. In case of 8%. Similarly, in heterogeneous, we can able to provide sucrose. Though sucrose is disaccharide, but at the intestine, it is converted into glucose plus fructose. So sucrose containing sports drink is not homogeneous, it is heterogeneous. Because after consumption in small intestine, it would be clipped into the glucose plus fructose. Similarly, glucose plus maltodextrin, it is also the heterogeneous sports drink. Now the question may be raised that why the heterogeneous sports drink is preferred over the homogeneous sports drink? Because if we study the transport system of these monosaccharides in our small intestine, there are so many transporters. That is, for glucose, the transporter is known as sodium glucose co-transporter system. Sodium glucose co-transporter system. So if we apply only glucose, suppose 8% glucose, then at 6% level of the glucose, that sodium glucose co-transporter would be saturated. And thereby the residual amount of glucose, that is 8 minus 6, 2% glucose, would not be absorbed from the intestine due to the saturation of this transporter. And that 2% would be unabsorbed. And so the fuel supply to the cell is not sufficient. Though we supply 8%, only 6% or 5% glucose would be absorbed and the residual part would be eliminated through stool. In contrast, if we apply glucose plus fructose at the ratio of 4:4 or 5:3, then this 4 gram of glucose or 5 gram of glucose per 100 ml cannot able to supersaturate the sodium glucose co-transporter system. So the ingested total glucose would be absorbed by that sodium glucose co-transporter, and the residual fructose would be transported through GLUT5, that is the glucose transporter 5. So what is the benefit of the body if we apply heterogeneous sports drink? That means 99% of the ingested monosaccharides would be absorbed by different type of transporter in the intestinal villi epithelial cells, which can able to provide maximum fuel to the target cell for energy supply. That can able to delay the fatigue. For this reason, at present, we apply heterogeneous sports drink instead of homogeneous sports drink. Now, what are the role of electrolytes? Now we know that sodium, potassium, these are very much important electrolytes to maintain the muscle activity, muscle excitability, nerve signal propagation. The sodium concentration is about 20 to 30 milliosmol, and the potassium is about 2 to 3 milliosmol. If sodium or potassium is not maintained during sports event in the body fluid, then there is a chance of muscle tonicity interference. Muscle cramp would be noted. The activity, excitability, the neuromuscular junction, signal transmission, all would be interfere. That also affects the performance and endurance of the sports person. Why magnesium we also apply? Magnesium is most important as a cofactor for glycolytic enzymes. We know that in glycolysis, where the glucose is utilized and form pyruvate, there are 10 different enzymes. 10 different enzymes, and out of the 10, 6 enzymes, so the cofactor is magnesium. So if we provide magnesium along with sports drink, the glycolytic pathway would be operated at a very high rate that can able to supply ATP. Similarly, hydration is very much needed because without hydration, sufficient water is not present in the cytoplasm. And in lack of water in the cytoplasm, as well as the matrix of mitochondria, the operation of glycolysis, operation of TCA cycle would be affected. That also limit the ATP production. That also interfere the performance and endurance. So to maintain the muscle function, to maintain the excitability, nerve signal propagation activity, sodium, potassium are needed. That should be supplied through sports drink. Similarly, magnesium that is needed for glucose utilized in the cell through glycolytic pathway. It is also essential. Hydration is also needed to conduct the different catalytic reactions for energy production in cell. Now, benefits of this sports drink during exercise. It can able to supply the energy, it maintain the hydration condition of the cell, it also enhance the endurance, it reduce the fatigue and help to improve the recovery at the post-sports event. So, if we conclude this information of this today's discussion, we may say that appropriate use of sports drink can able to improve the performance, endurance of the sports person, and it also help for the recovery of the sports person during post-sports event. So this is all about the importance of the sports drink, which is most important formulated beverage in the sports science for sports activity maintenance at the high level. Thank you.